Ladies and gentlemen, the role of Congress, post-Roe. Please welcome CEO and President of Concerned Women for America, Penny Nance. From Minnesota, Congresswoman Michelle Fischbach. And your host, founder and president of Bienvenido US, Abraham Enriquez.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you love freedom and liberty, let me hear ya. Listen, it is an honor to share this stage with some trailblazers in the pro-life community because America believes in the importance of standing for the unborn, and I can't think of two extraordinary women who have done that. Penny, President and CEO of Concerned Women for America, and Congresswoman Michelle Fischbach. Thank you for what you do and what you continue to do for the pro-life movement. So before we begin, can we please all give these women a round of applause for their work? So Penny, on June 24th, the Supreme Court of the United States decided that it is time to right a wrong in America when they overturned Roe v. Wade. And I want to get your thoughts because we all know the New York Times video of you standing outside the court on the microphone. What was going through your mind? What were you feeling when you heard that decision?
Well, so much. First off, thank you all. It is awesome to be here at CPAC. It is a great event. And I hear you have somebody kind of interesting coming on after us, right? Donald Trump. Thank you for coming for us, but you can stay for him. So yes, it was an incredible moment. You know, I kept thinking about Deuteronomy 30:19. I've set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Choose life so you and your children may live. And thank God at that moment, in this day, the United States of America and the U.S. Supreme Court chose life. And we are working now to build a culture of life. And of course, that is all on us. But yes, going through my mind was 100 thoughts. Of course, at the top of that is the people like you, my Concerned Women for America leaders and members, and all of you who for the past 50 years, and perhaps your mothers, who came to Washington with strollers and their children on their hip and marched in the March for Life. And the women who walked in the Capitol and came to their congressmen and senators' offices and lobbied for life. And all the people who went to their state legislatures, and that's many of you. Thank you. You're all a part of that. And then finally, last but not least, I thought and said, thank you, Donald J. Trump, for appointing not one, not two, but 3 Supreme Court justices. And like you, Concerned Women for America worked to get these men and women confirmed. And it was hard work, but also prayer. Thank you for your prayers and all your support. And I also said on that day, Abraham, I'll end with this, to all the never-Trumpers who accused Matt Schlapp and me and others of selling out by supporting this president, bless their hearts.
I love it.
We are so grateful.
I love it. Congresswoman, as the co-chair of the Pro-Life Caucus, you played an integral role of shedding light on this issue. So years of activism, marches, pro-life groups coming together. On June 24th, what does that day mean to you, and how did you feel? And walk us through what was going on in your mind.
Well, I will tell you, first of all, it took a little while for it to sink in. Because we have been working and praying for 50 years, and we all knew that Roe versus Wade was unconstitutional, and it finally happened. And so it was a wonderful, great day, but I had to keep reminding myself that it had really happened. But I'll tell you, although it was a monumental decision, our work isn't over. Our work is not over. We need to win this war. We need to continue to change hearts and minds, talking about the humanity of the unborn child, making sure that people understand, making sure that women have alternatives, because that war isn't over yet.
That's right.
Although we have won a wonderful battle, we still need to do that. And so that is one thing. We can't lose sight of that, because there are still women out there in crisis that need our help. And pro-lifers for 50 years have been wrapping those women in love and saving those babies. And we need to continue to do that. And that's our mission, is to make sure that we can save every baby we possibly can. And that's what our legislation needs to look like.
Absolutely. Penny, so it's now been turned over to the states. Yeah. We're at a critical time. I think the November midterm elections is more important now than ever for pro-life victory. Following the election that we just saw in Kansas, what are your thoughts? What do we need to do? Do we need to change strategies? How can we ensure that America stays standing on truth and moral principle?
Well, yes, you said it, Congresswoman. Our work has just begun. And I think, certainly as people of faith especially, we tend to just be content in our pews. And it's not enough. And we have done all this work. By the way, the other side has led with lies, have said things like that based on the overturn, like every single state, that abortion's illegal in every single state. Of course not. I mean, the democratic process has to work. And so in states like California, we've got a lot of work to do. In states like Mississippi, it's an easier lift, and it's largely pro-life. So it's not one size fits all anymore, which is what they wanted. They wanted 7 men to decide for everyone, and that has been their world, in which they've not had to work, they've not had to raise money, they've had the situation settled for them based on judicial fiat. Now we've sent it back to the states. And Kansas is a perfect example. We have to be smart, and we have to work hard. But what I always tell our women, I think about the story of Esther. Esther IV, the queen who's plucked from obscurity, made the queen of the vast Media-Persian Empire, right? And she is faced with, utter destruction of her people. And her uncle comes to her, maybe it's her cousin, comes to her and says, Esther, and we know the verse of, perhaps you were born for such a time as this. And I believe that conservative women, Christian women, were born for this time in order to it's true, and to grab hold of reality and to make this country one that welcomes life in love and cares for the least of these, cares for these women. But we can't do it hanging out alone in our pews. We have to work together. But the important verse, even more than for such a time as this, is that you can ignore what's happening, and God will raise up someone else, but you and your family will suffer or even die. And what I think that means for today is that you're not safe in the palace. You're not safe in your pews. You might want to just ignore what's happening in culture, but it will come to you. And we've seen that in our schools. We're seeing it in our communities. You recognize it, but the way we win on life is to get out of our pews and to walk the precinct for the candidate of your choice. And at the very least, not only vote, but call all your like-minded friends and make sure you show up on Election Day.
That's incredible. Yep. Amen to that. Congresswoman, in the 90s, the theme for abortion was safe, legal, and rare. Yep. Fast forward to today, and their theme now is shout your abortion. Yep. It's incredibly embarrassing to know that America is one of the few countries where we have the most extreme abortion laws in the books. We now know that most abortions are now elective, happening in the 3rd trimester. In your thoughts, how did we get from safe, legal, and rare to pushing an extremist agenda?
I think one of the things is they're finally showing their true colors. They may have said safe, legal, and rare, but they absolutely meant abortion up until the moment of birth. And that's what but they have now finally showing their true colors, like they're doing on so many issues. And so you see them on the floor of the House talking about their abortions, talking about the need to promote it and to make sure that women have it available and we pay for it. And it is, like I said, I think it's because they're showing their true colors, and we need to continue to combat that that kind of full, when they talk about us being extremists, they're extremists.
Yes.
They are extremists. You want to abort a child up until the time of birth. And in addition to that, they're even promoting infanticide now, which we knew was going to come eventually when they promoted their abortion agenda. And so I think that what we need to do is combat and say, no, 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 you're the extremist. We're supporting women. We want to help women. We're talking about saving babies. We're talking about really creating a atmosphere of love, and they are talking about the only answer to everything in their world is abortion. And it is amazing that they are finally now saying what they really mean.
Showing their true colors.
Yep.
There's a double standard as well on the left, Penny.
Yes.
And there's leading up to when the Supreme Court memo was briefed and let out. There was this insane attack on pro-life pregnancy centers and organizations. Was Concerned Women for America affected by that? And tell us, share a little bit about what the media doesn't want to show us, how organizations like yourselves were attacked.
Well, and could I just first agree with what you said? Don't allow the left to pretend to be compassionate. Planned Parenthood wants a woman's money. They want her for a few hours and they never want to see her again. We're the ones who care for women. And there's nothing compassionate about the idea of stopping a beating heart and dismembering a baby. So make them defend what they're saying and what they're defending. You've got to take it to them. And they're lying, suggesting that you can't be treated for ectopic pregnancy or a miscarriage. So take it on, take it head on. But yes, they are so broken that they have even come after pregnancy care centers, right? Completely non-political people who are just there to care for women and their needs. And we've toured at CWA, we've toured many of them around the country. And these are just volunteers who care for women and want to meet their felt needs, help them with everything from health care. Many of them are full-blown health care centers, and even taking them into their home. And so they've been, as you pointed out, there's been over 30 attacks around the country by domestic terrorists who've gone after these pregnancy care centers, firebombed them, spray painted them. We had someone come in the sort of prior to the quote-unquote fake day of rage, in which they vandalized our office. They have harassed our employees. And thankfully, there has been an arrest in our particular case. But the FBI has neglected these pregnancy care centers. All Joe Biden can talk about is abortion clinics, but has ignored these women who are caring for women who are struggling. And it's outrageous. I want to know where the FBI is in looking into those cases. These are domestic terrorists, and our people deserve to be protected.
Yep.
I agree completely. Amen to that. Congresswoman, we know it's been returned back to the states, this decision, but the fight still is in the House. Midterm election coming up in November is critical. What does a House majority mean for Congresswoman Michelle, and what priorities are you placing if we do win the House? Actually, when we win the House.
When we win the House, absolutely.
What are some priorities on the top of Congresswoman Michelle's mind?
You know, when we are in the majority next year, we're looking at things that are going to support women. Our pro-life agenda is going to look like we're going to be doing things like parental notice so that parents have the opportunity to know what's going on with their children. We're looking at informed consent so that women can understand the procedure they're going under, because that's something that Planned Parenthood and the pro-abortionists don't want them to understand what's really happening during that abortion. We want to make sure that those crisis pregnancy centers, those pregnancy care centers, have the kinds of support and the funds to do what they can do to help women. And not only, do they provide the health care, but they're also giving these women, cribs and strollers and things that they need once the baby is born, and continuing on and helping them parent and helping them, showing them the right path. And so they're not just, like the extremists, the pro-abortionists love to say that, oh, well, you only care about unborn babies, and you don't care once they're born. That's not true, because those pregnancy centers are caring for women once they're women and their babies, once they have those children. So we want to make sure that they have the kind of support they have. And we want to do those kinds of things to make sure that we at the federal level are setting the bottom, because states can go continue to go further and go on and do much more because it's in the hand of elected officials. So there are some things that we can do at the federal level, and then the state level is where they can really do a lot more. But I want to do some of those things, and we need to make sure that we are taking those steps because it's important that we look at legislation that is going to help save every baby we possibly can.
That's right.
We may not be able to do everything in one step, but I want to save babies every single day and make those steps towards that because every baby is so important, every one that we can save.
Absolutely. Penny, I'm from Lubbock, Texas, West Texas, not too far from here, very conservative area, and Planned Parenthood decided to set up shop. And over 200 churches came together, put an ordinance on the ballot and said, we're not going to allow the killing of the unborn to happen in our city. It was because of those 200 churches, 200 pastors, stepping up and saying we will no longer stand for this, that Lubbock, on May of 2021, became the largest city in the country to outlaw abortion because of those brave pastors. Penny, how important is it for pastors to no longer sit on the sidelines, step up and stand for truth? And Congresswoman, how can outside organizations and churches come together to support lawmakers like yourself to increase this message? Penny, we'll start with you.
Well, first off, you are so powerful. Do you understand how much power you have in our nation? Talk to your pastor. Ask him. All he has to do is tell people to vote. That is not in any way unlawful or wrong. He doesn't tell them how to vote. He tells them to vote, and it matters. The other thing I would say is the power of the purse. Stop giving money to people who hate you. Let's stop. Let's decide right now. If you go to concernwomen.org, we have a list of all the big companies who despise you so much that they're spending your money to pay their employees to travel for an abortion. And at the top of that list is Target. At the very least, we can go someplace else and buy our kids' school supplies, right? I'm a mom. I remember buying all the stuff for school, all the soccer balls, all the cleats, all that. Don't go to Dick's. Go somewhere else. When are we going to learn that when we are together, we stand together and vote with our wallet and support the people who support us, we win. So that's the first couple of things you can do.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Well, and, support your pro-life legislators and congressmen and women and make sure that they understand that I appreciate your pro-life stand because sometimes it does get lonely out there. This is a wonderful crowd, and I love being in a room full of pro-lifers and good, strong conservatives because you know what, I'll tell you, it makes it just a little bit easier to go back to D.C. because I look at all you and I think, you know what, they're all behind me when I'm taking on the Democrats.
Right.
You guys are all behind me. And so I appreciate that, but I think that's one thing. Make sure you are saying, you know what, to your legislators, thank you for being pro-life. Thank you so much. The other thing is we have such an opportunity. Roe versus Wade is gone.
Yes.
Roe versus Wade is gone. And we have an incredible opportunity. Let's come together. Let's not be backbiting and calling names, whatever the case is. Let's all fight for life. Let's all move in the same direction and make sure that we're working together to save babies.
Stop.
No.
So for years, Congresswoman and Penny, I wrestled with the idea of what role does a man have in this pro-life conversation. I always knew protecting the unborn was vital and critical, but how outspoken could I be? And it wasn't until I heard the story that I actually shared with President Trump, a story of a young girl who became with child at a very, very early age, not by choice, right before going to college. Obviously, this dramatically changed the course of her life. Father of the child was no longer in the picture. The friends were gone. College was no longer a choice at that point. And her guidance counselor recommended she go and visit this clinic. Her brother takes her, and she realized she was in a Planned Parenthood clinic. And that doctor, the physician, walks in and tells a young girl, listen, I just want you to write down all of your dreams, aspirations on this blank piece of paper. A young girl, for a quick second, thought, wow, there's someone here that wants to help me, that believes in me. So she quickly started writing that she wanted to go to college, wanted to get married, start a family, open up a business. Handed the paper back to the physician, eagerly waiting what she was going to say. The physician tears that piece of paper into shreds and says, that is what's going to happen to your dreams if you carry on that pregnancy. Oh. Those dreams shattered in front of that young girl, and the physician sits next to her. She says, but don't worry, there's still an option for you. She pulls out a pamphlet. She walks her through her steps of abortion. The young girl didn't know what this was. She goes back to her parents, and her parents, strong Christians, said, this is not something we're going to do. You're going to carry this baby, and we're going to help you. Now, I want to fast forward just a little bit. That young girl actually ended up going to college. She said yes to the baby. Full term. And not only did she accomplish every single thing on that piece of paper, but she realized the importance of standing and providing support for candidates that stood for pro-life principles, to where now she is a counselor to many elected officials on the pro-life stance. President Trump acknowledged her work in the pro-life community and made her advisor to his Latinos for Trump campaign. That young woman is now someone that I call mom, and that child she's gave birth to is me. So, Mom.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you, Mom. And I wish my mom was here tonight so she could see that the standing ovation was for her, and the standing ovation is for every young woman who knows that they can do it because they deserve more than an abortion. And thank you, Penny. Thank you, Congresswoman, for fighting for kids like me to have opportunity in America. In closing statements, how important is it, Penny, to continue this fight?
So remember this, it's up to us. President Reagan said freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States when men were free. We're going to fight for freedom, and we're so grateful. And that standing ovation was for your mom.
Absolutely.
What a woman.
Very brief, Congresswoman. My mom always says the importance of, in the Bible, Mary became with child as well. The first woman she actually saw was Elizabeth, who in her womb also confirmed that what she was hosting was a blessing. I sometimes question, had my young mom been in front of someone like AOC or Hillary Clinton, I think she probably would have been convinced and pressured to not carry me. Mm-hmm. How important is it for women to host grace and love for women who are on that verge of decision?
Well, if both men and women,
can
wrap those women in love and make sure that we protect that baby and the mother. And that's the important part, that we just make sure that we are taking care of them. And just remember, every single life we save is a life that was given by God. And that's our goal as we leave here today.
Amen. CPAC, here in America, we believe in liberty and the pursuit of happiness, but you can't have that with first having life. Let's continue to be a pro-life nation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.